My family has always known how to be polite, never rude to your face, never sharp enough to cut, but always cold enough that you start to question if the chill is real. Mari, my older sister, is the star of the family, the one who always knew how to get the perfect lighting in a room. She speaks at local fundraisers, heads up her church's women's council, and is on the board of 3 nonprofits. Dad once called her the heartbeat of this family. Mom still quotes her in dinner prayers. She decided to throw herself a 100-guest party, some community award for service or leadership, or something that makes you print programs and rent heat lamps for the backyard. Everyone was buzzing. I hadn't been sent an invitation, but Mari did text me. "You'll help with setup, right?" I wasn't surprised. I knew what that meant. A few days later, I dropped off folding chairs at her house. I walked into the kitchen and saw a neat stack of ivory envelopes with gold lettering. The guest list, printed in calligraphy, dozens of names I didn't recognize, but not mine. I ran my finger down the column just to be sure. Not there. Later that evening, Mom handed me an envelope. It was from the bottom of the stack, and my name was scribbled in red ink on a backup envelope Mari probably found in a junk drawer. There wasn't even a card inside, just a post-it with, "You'll be there, right?" and a smiley face. "If I'm not a guest," I said to Garrett, my younger brother, "then what am I?" He shrugged and smirked. "Maybe you're the event staff, sis." We both laughed, but mine didn't last. Something about that moment stayed with me. That weekend at dinner, Mom lifted her glass and said, "We're all so lucky Mari holds things together." Dad followed. "She brings such elegance to the family. You'll be helping, right?" His eyes met mine, not Mari's. I nodded. Of course. That night, as I was wiping down the table, I remembered Christmas 2 years ago. Everyone watching football while I scrubbed cranberry sauce off the linen. That familiar ache crept back, the kind that doesn't sting, just settles and stays. Back home, I pulled out the red striped kitchen towel. It's been with me for years, at every family event. It's soft now, frayed at the corners. I folded it slowly, with the same precision I always do. A ritual of resignation. Into my bag it went, silent, like always. Sunday brunch at Vera's, our cousin's place. Someone leaned in and asked, "Will you be helping cater again this year?" No malice. Just assumption. Mari laughed. "She's our family's best-kept secret." Everyone chuckled. I smiled too. I had to. But inside, something cracked. Not loudly, just a quiet fracture, one I didn't even register at first. I looked down at my coffee and thought, when they laugh, I disappear a little more. That night, I sat at my desk and looked again at the envelope with my name in red ink. I held the towel in my lap. This time, it would come with me again. But something else had changed. 2 days before the party, I showed up at Mari's house under the usual arrangement. She didn't say hello, just handed me a clipboard and turned back to a woman discussing flower placement. The list was long. Setup times, vendor arrivals, bathroom sign placements, table configurations, contingency plans for wind, and a note at the bottom. "Garrett, please confirm." That note wasn't typed like the rest. It was scrawled in Mari's handwriting, barely legible. In the dining area, chairs were neatly labeled with guests' names. I looked for mine, not expecting much, but still. When I didn't find it, I pulled a sticky note from my purse and wrote my name in small print. I stuck it to the corner of a table farthest from the stage and didn't tell a soul. No one noticed, or if they did, they didn't say anything. It was all very on brand for this family. Later that afternoon, I changed into a modest navy dress. I'd bought it for the event, something neutral, professional. I wasn't aiming to stand out, just not be mistaken for staff. But halfway through the gathering, one of Mari's longtime friends passed by, looked at me and said, "Oh, you're with the catering crew?" I gave a polite chuckle. Mari was nearby and overheard it. She smiled, but didn't correct her. That moment didn't hurt the way it would have years ago. I'd grown calluses over this particular kind of wound. But there was a throb under the surface, quiet and persistent. Not pain, not anymore. Just the confirmation of where I stood. Respect in my family was never taken. It was never shouted down or denied. It was simply never offered to begin with. Later that same day, they began arranging people for the official photo. The kind that would be printed and emailed to donors, uploaded to the church newsletter, probably turned into a Christmas card. Everyone stood in place. I slid into the edge of the group, like I always had. Not in the center. Never in the center. Just before the flash, Mari leaned over and said, "Let's make room for the kids," and gently guided me out of frame. I stepped back without protest. The camera clicked. No second take. No one called me back in. I stood by the side wall with my towel folded in my arms like it mattered, like it could protect me from this quiet form of exile. As the rest of the day unfolded, it became clear. I wasn't just unseen, I was functionally erased. A guest asked me where the drinks were, assuming I'd know. Another asked if I could adjust the music volume. They weren't being rude, that's what stung. A little boy, probably 7 or 8, tugged my shirt and asked, "Do you live here?" I smiled, knelt down and said, "No, sweetie, I'm her sister." He tilted his head, clearly confused. "But you're doing all the stuff." I didn't have an answer for that one. After he wandered off, I found a quiet corner and sat on a step leading into the hallway. My mind wandered, and I slipped into memory. Thanksgiving, maybe 10 years ago. I'd made the stuffing, the pies, set every place card, poured drinks, washed dishes. Nobody offered me a seat until dessert. It wasn't some grand insult. No one even noticed. But I remember eating my slice of pie standing at the counter, watching them laugh from across the room. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd never really seen me. Back in the present, I stood up, adjusted my jacket, and stepped out the back door. The air was cooler there. Still, just me and the sound of faint chatter through the walls. I reached into my tote and pulled out the towel. Red-striped, frayed, familiar. This time, I folded it slower, not to prepare, but to mark the end of something. I came back the next day, like clockwork. Same driveway, same glass door with a wreath too large for the season. Inside, the buzz had changed. Final touches now. Volunteers moving quicker, checking clipboards like they were saving lives. I slid in quietly. No one said hello. No one asked how I slept. Mari was at the center of it all. She clapped twice to get everyone's attention, then launched into a walkthrough of the party timeline. I stood in the back, holding my coffee, waiting for direction. My name wasn't on any of the logistics sheets she handed out, not once. But every time someone needed something moved, adjusted, fixed, it was me they called over. "Garrett, Garrett, would you mind?" She started presenting the slideshow she'd prepared for the big screens, a collection of faces, names, thank yous. At first, I didn't register it, just watched politely, but as the frames kept shifting, a slow heat crawled up my spine. Every photo had a caption. Every person had a role. Everyone, except me. I lifted my hand slightly, not to interrupt, just to ask. Mari didn't look at me. "Let's stay on schedule," she said, turning back to the group. Everyone nodded. I lowered my hand. Forced a smile. A few hours later, I slipped into the media room. The tech guy was testing the event video. A warm, upbeat soundtrack played over a montage of years past. Family trips, baby showers, retirement parties. I saw a clip I remembered clearly. I'd been in it, standing next to Mari at the lake, holding a tray of drinks, laughing with her. Except in this version, I wasn't there. They had cropped it, or used a different take. I watched as another moment played, a Thanksgiving dinner photo, everyone around the table. I'd been the one who set that table. But in this version, the angle made it seem like I wasn't even home that day. A family friend watching next to me said, "This is beautiful. So complete. Complete." That word hit harder than it should have. I stepped out of the room without saying anything. Later, Vera handed out the family newsletter. She was beaming like she'd just published a best-selling novel. "Fresh from the printer," she said proudly. I opened mine slowly. Mari had a full page, photos, quotes, a timeline of accomplishments. Even her speech from the church fundraiser made it in. Other relatives had blurbs too. Birth announcements, promotions, graduation shout-outs. I turned every page twice. Nothing, not a line, not even my name. I didn't say anything at first. But when I handed my copy back to Vera, I asked casually, Did I miss something? Maybe mine's misprinted? She smiled, shaking her head. There just wasn't space for everything this year. I nodded. Of course. That evening, after most people left, I stayed in the kitchen and stared at the sticky note with my name on it, the one I had placed on the table the day before. I peeled it off gently and folded it in half, then again. Then I slid it into my pocket like it was a receipt I didn't want to throw out yet. No space for me, I said under my breath. Got it. My phone buzzed. Halden. Are you okay? You sound far away lately. I didn't reply. I didn't even unlock the screen. Instead, I reached for the towel again, folded it with slow fingers, corners matched exactly. But this time, it didn't feel like preparation. It felt like closure. Back in the guest room, I opened the drawer where Mari had left extra linens. At the very back was a notebook, blue leather cover, worn at the edges. I pulled it out. Inside were years of event plans, layouts, catering contacts, call logs, budget notes, my handwriting. All of it was mine. I flipped through page after page, my initials, my numbers, my follow-ups, all the things they'd credited to Mari over the years. Every single one had started in this book, from me. There was no bitterness in that moment, just a quiet, eerie clarity. I glanced at the window. It was dark outside. The glass reflected my own face back at me. Tired, quiet, but there. And finally, fully present. I closed the notebook and set it beside the towel. I reached for the newsletter next, folded it into fourths, lined up the edges like I used to do with my worksheets in school. This time, the towel wouldn't be coming with me. I came back the next afternoon, knowing what kind of silence waited for me. It was a different kind now, thicker, not the usual hum of passive politeness. This one had corners, edges. You could cut yourself on it if you weren't careful. Mari didn't say hi, just handed me another sheet of paper, stapled. Final checklist, she said, like we were partners in some joint venture. I scanned it quickly. My name wasn't on the official roster at all, not once. But someone had scribbled it into the margins beside almost every hard task. Trash removal, post-event cleaning, equipment packing, dish sanitation. I looked at Mari and said, plain and even, I don't think I'm doing everything this time. She smiled like I'd made a cute joke. You always say that, but you're just better at it. I didn't answer. I folded the paper in half and tucked it into my back pocket. It crinkled like something that had been carried too long. On my way through the main hallway, I stopped by the small easel display near the bar. There was a framed certificate perched neatly on it, an acknowledgement for the generous contribution that helped fund the event's floral design. It had Mari's name on it, printed in calligraphy, embossed in gold. I had transferred that money 3 weeks ago. She'd asked, "Use my name, it's easier for press tracking." And I, still trying to be the glue, agreed. Now my name was gone, and she stood in the glow of its absence. A friend of hers passed by and pointed to the frame. Your sister's generosity is something else. I nodded, but not in agreement, just to survive the moment. Later, in the lounge area, Vera waved me over. Test this pen, she said, handing me the guest book. Make sure it doesn't smudge. I opened to a blank page and wrote something simple, truthful, about gratitude, about invisible work, about love that doesn't get applause. Hours passed. I didn't think of it again until I saw the guest book later that evening, flipped open to a fresh page. Mine was gone. A young volunteer said, Mari thought it didn't match the tone. The new entries were shallow praises. Beautiful event, so elegant. What a woman. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for my page back. Instead, I walked outside where the trellis grew against the brick wall. Mari was out there, phone in hand, texting with one thumb. She looked up. We need to talk, I said. She sighed. Not now, Garrett. We're almost there. I didn't move. You've built an empire on my silence. That ends tomorrow. She laughed under her breath. Don't ruin this for everyone. You always make things about you at the worst time. It wasn't ignorance. It was choice. That night, I packed slowly. Passport, headphones, towel. I placed each item into my bag like I was building something, a different kind of escape. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the screen on my phone, typed the words, last-minute flights. It was close. I was close, but not yet. I wasn't running. I was waiting for the moment that would make it necessary. The towel was folded, yes, but not for this house, not for this stage, for me. In the quiet of that room, I sent one message. What would you say if I just disappeared for a while? The reply came within seconds. I'd say, you've already waited too long. It was late, almost 10. I was sitting on the edge of the guest bed, one sock on, one off, towel folded beside me like it always was. I hadn't even brushed my teeth. I'd spent the last 2 hours cleaning glassware that wasn't mine, for guests I hadn't invited, for a party I never agreed to support. Then the knock came. 3 short taps. Mari didn't wait for me to answer. She stepped in, holding a clipboard. "Party's wrapping by 10, she said, like she hadn't already planned my night for me. "Cleanup starts 10:30 sharp. You've got this, right?" I looked at her, not speaking, not yet. She walked over, laid the clipboard right on my bed. "I outlined everything to make it easier. We'll be tired. You're the best at this." There was only one name on the schedule, mine. I didn't say a word. My jaw tightened, heartbeat steady but fast. Mari didn't notice. She never does. She left the room without another word. Just like that. I stared at the clipboard for a long time before setting it aside. Then I walked into the bathroom, turned on the light, and looked at myself. What I saw didn't surprise me. Just a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a mouth that had forgotten how to say no without smiling. "Maybe it's just this one time," I whispered. Then the truth came faster than I expected. "No," I said, staring straight at myself. "It's every time." And there it was. Years of dinners cleared while others laughed, photos cropped, rooms rearranged around me as if I was just air. My chest ached in a way that felt both old and new, like grief that had been waiting for permission. Tears came quietly. No sobbing, just a slow leak that wouldn't stop. I leaned against the sink, towel still in hand. Back in the bedroom, I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. A notification flashed across the screen, a forwarded email from a volunteer named Kelly. Subject, post-event ops. I opened it. The thread wasn't meant for me. Mari had written, "Let Garrett handle the cleanup. She thrives in that role. No need to confuse the team with extra names." I stared at it. Once, twice. Then I screenshot it. Sent it to Elias, my lawyer friend from undergrad. Caption: "In case I forget how they see me." I lay down without changing clothes. The towel was next to me now, not folded like usual. Just there. In my head, I ran the loop. "You're so helpful. She's our best-kept secret. Where should the drinks go?" No name in the newsletter, no face in the video. A whole life of labor tucked behind someone else's spotlight. "If I clean this one more time," I said out loud to no one, "I'm complicit." The room was still. My phone was warm in my hand. I sat up and opened my laptop, typed in, "Flights to Hawaii, one way." Prices popped up. I remembered the message Halden sent a month ago. "Thanksgiving in paradise. If you ever need to disappear, you know where to find me." I texted him. "Still room for one more?" His reply came before I could set the phone down. "For you, always." I stared at the screen for a while, then moved the cursor to the confirm button. Not yet, but close. I picked up the towel, folded it the same way I always did, but this time, I placed it in my carry-on. Tomorrow, they'd be setting tables, I'd be boarding a plane. I woke up before the sun came through the blinds. It wasn't nerves, it wasn't excitement, just instinct. My body was used to getting up before everyone else, used to being needed before being acknowledged. I moved slowly, quietly, packed the carry-on I'd hidden under the bed the night before. The towel was folded in the bottom, right under the black cardigan I always wore at these things. It wasn't for warmth, it was for blending in, for being forgettable. Downstairs, the house buzzed. Voices, movement, silver trays clinking. volunteers giving each other directions. I stepped into the kitchen. No one greeted me. I wasn't surprised. A young girl I didn't recognize handed me a printed list. "You're Garrett, right? Mari said you'd know what to do with this." I nodded, glanced over the sheet. My name wasn't printed on it, again, but every line had a hand-scribbled note next to it. Garrett? G. Ask Garrett. No thanks. No acknowledgement. Just assumption. I smiled the kind of smile people use to shut doors without making noise. Of course, I said. That's all I ever said. Later, I walked past the center island and saw a tray of pumpkin pies, golden crusts, perfect shapes. I had baked them the night before, all of them, in silence. A guest walked up behind me and said, "Mari, did you make those? I heard they're like family famous." Mari didn't miss a beat. "It's Mom's recipe, but I perfected it." I was 5 feet away, holding a bowl of whipped cream. Another guest laughed. "She always does it all, doesn't she?" Mari nodded, smug. "That's what they say." I placed the bowl down. Carefully, hands steady, jaw locked. Later, when the kitchen cleared out for a short break, I stepped outside and checked my phone. A group chat message buzzed in, a forwarded voice memo from my cousin Marla. It was Mari's voice. "Garrett will clean. That's what she's good for. She's like our little event staff that never quits." There was light laughter in the background. A male voice, maybe our uncle, added, "Yeah, she's loyal like a dish rag." I didn't flinch. I played it again and again. Third time, I saved it. My fingers moved on their own. I sent it to Elias. No caption this time. The file said it all. Inside, I stood still for a moment, then walked into the pantry and shut the door behind me, not to cry, not to fall apart, just to breathe. At 13, I had done this same thing, stood alone, cleaning cake off plates while Mari posed for pictures. I remember thinking I'd get my turn. Turns out, I was building hers, brick by brick, pie by pie. "No more," I said, out loud this time. My voice didn't shake. I stepped back into the kitchen. Everyone was busy again. No one noticed I'd left. I walked outside, behind the shed where no one would hear. Dialed Halden. He picked up before the first ring finished. "Are you still in?" I didn't answer that directly. "What's the name of the hotel?" He said it. I wrote it down. "I'll book the hotel. Text me your landing time." I walked back inside, through the narrow hallway past the pantry, into the kitchen again. It felt different now, like it belonged to someone else. Like it had always belonged to someone else. I found my towel near the prep station, still folded, still clean. I picked it up, pressed the edges together, left it on the counter next to the pies. Not draped, not tossed, just there. That was the last task I completed that day. Upstairs, I opened my carry-on, checked my boarding pass. Tomorrow, they'd have their menu. I had my ticket. The house was alive by noon. Laughter, music, champagne glasses clinking in the front room. People had shown up early, dressed too formally, already angling for pictures before appetizers were even out. I slipped in through the side door near the garage and stayed close to the walls. Nobody noticed, not even the ones I'd seen every Thanksgiving since childhood. I wandered past the digital display they'd set up near the entrance. A slideshow looped on the mounted screen. Mari as a toddler in ruffles, Mari at her college graduation, Mari receiving a leadership award. Group photos cycled in and out, showing friends, cousins, even ex-boyfriends. I wasn't in a single one. Not one. Later, in the hallway near the guest bathroom, I opened my phone and checked the event hashtag, post after post, group selfies, smiling toasts, dozens of tags, but not mine. I tapped the event's account, blocked. I stood there for a full minute, then slid my phone back into my pocket. No heat in my chest, no sting in my throat. They're rehearsing life without me, I thought. I'm just letting them get better at it. Near 3 p.m., Vera was called to the small stage they'd built on the back lawn. The music faded, and someone handed her a microphone. She cleared her throat, beamed with practiced grace, and began, "I'm so proud of the woman Mari has become. She is the example we all needed. A mother, a leader, a daughter anyone would be blessed to have. She went on, naming Mari's neighbors, her assistant, even the family's longtime landscaper. She thanked the caterer, the valet team, and one cousin who had helped with the playlist. She mentioned every grandchild by name, each followed by applause. Not mine, not a pause, not even a glance in my direction. I looked at my mother as she spoke and realized it wasn't that she'd forgotten me. It was that this version of me, the quiet version, the useful version, the one who didn't make trouble, that was the one she kept, the one she preferred. "She doesn't forget me," I whispered. "She just needs the version of me that stays quiet." When the applause ended, I stepped back inside. The kitchen was empty for a moment. I walked over to the counter. The red striped towel I had left behind yesterday was still there, folded exactly as I'd left it. No one had touched it. No one had moved it, like it was waiting to be claimed. I didn't take it. I picked it up, walked to the buffet table, and placed it on the edge next to one of the untouched pies. I pulled a sticky note from my wallet, wrote one word in block letters. Returned. I folded it under the towel. As I turned, a young woman, maybe one of Mari's interns, saw me and asked, "Are you leaving early?" I said, "No, I'm just done." The wind had picked up when I stepped outside. It smelled like someone had opened a bottle of cheap champagne. Laughter floated from the lawn. I could hear Mari prepping for her toast. I stayed out of view, behind the trellis, phone in hand. I texted Halden, leaving in 30. I stood there and watched Mari raise her glass, her voice full of charm and triumph. She looked radiant. I watched from a distance as people cheered, clapped, leaned in for selfies. No one noticed I wasn't in the crowd. No one asked where I'd gone. No one called my name. And strangely, that was okay. I used to fear being left out, I thought. Now I'm more afraid of being included only when they need me. I headed back upstairs. My guest room was just as I'd left it. I zipped the carry-on, checked the boarding pass again, pulled my ID from the drawer, folded the charger cord carefully, tucked it beside the towel. I scanned the room once more, made the bed, smoothed the blanket. No sign I'd been there. Before walking out, I stood in front of the mirror one last time. "They built a party," I said quietly. "I'm building a life." Outside, a black car waited at the curb. I didn't hesitate. I stepped in. No one stopped me. No one even knew I was leaving. By late afternoon, the house was humming with end-of-party chatter. Dishes clinking, wine bottles being uncorked, napkins folded again and again like it made any difference now. Mari was still glowing, still orchestrating every moment like a symphony of curated perfection. She paused at the kitchen door, scanning for me. "Where's Garrett?" she asked aloud. One of the volunteers shrugged. "She was folding napkins earlier." "She'll show up," Mari said, brushing off the question like dust off her blazer. But I wasn't there, not in the pantry, not in the garage, not anywhere. I was already in the back seat of a rideshare, pulling onto the highway. My bag sat on my lap. My phone was on airplane mode. Silence wasn't just comfort anymore. It was armor. I watched the city shrink behind me as we sped toward the airport. The sky over Des Moines was bruised with color, that early evening fade where everything looks softer, except what's inside you. This wasn't running away. It wasn't drama. This was exit strategy. At the terminal, I moved through security like muscle memory. No stalling, just the rhythm of someone who'd already left before her feet moved. I sat at the gate, backpack beside me, ticket in hand. Towel folded, now soft with memory, tucked neatly next to my sunglasses and passport. I pulled out my phone. "Landing 8:32 p.m., I texted Halden. "Wine's on me." Then I turned the camera toward the gate sign, Gate 22, and snapped a photo. Smiled, posted it. Caption: "No cleanup today. Found a different view." I watched the likes roll in, faster than I expected, shared by people I hadn't heard from in months. Then I turned the phone face down and let it buzz without me. Back at the party, Mari had just started looking worried. Guests were beginning to ask questions. "Where's the pumpkin pie? Did Garrett leave something out?" Someone asked about the coffee service. Another, the gift bags. The volunteers scrambled. No one could find a backup plan, because Mari had never made one. She didn't need to. I had always been the plan. Mari checked her phone. No calls answered. no replies, just a tagged photo floating in her notifications. My selfie from gate 22. She showed it to Vera. She left? Vera stared at the screen, said nothing. A cousin leaned over and said quietly, "She finally walked away." Another guest asked, "Why didn't anyone help her all these years?" Vera sat back in her chair. For the first time all day, she didn't speak. Mari tried to recover, told people I wasn't feeling well, posted something vague on her story. Some things matter more than parties. But the screenshots were faster. The truth, faster still. In Hawaii, I stepped off the plane into warm air that didn't cling to skin. No one there knew my history. No one needed a clean kitchen. No one asked about the guest list. Halden met me at baggage claim. He didn't say anything, just handed me a lei and hugged me like I hadn't been missing, just delayed. I finally exhaled all the way down to my stomach. "They threw a party," I said. "I found peace." We walked toward the car together. I carried the towel this time, but not folded, just held. I didn't care if it wrinkled. It was mine again. In the car, I opened my phone. 43 missed calls, 27 messages. I didn't need to reply. The silence said everything they refused to hear. I woke to birds, not alarms, not footsteps outside a guest room door, no clattering dishes. Just birds, soft, consistent, free. The towel was balled up at the foot of the bed, no longer folded into that square I used to press like a badge. I let it stay there, let it be messy, let it breathe. I didn't reach for my phone right away. No urgency, no dread. I stared at the ceiling above me, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't rehearsing a conversation. I wasn't bracing for someone else's version of who I should be. So, this is what unburdened silence feels like. When I finally opened my phone, the notifications came like rain. Missed calls, voicemails, messages from numbers I never saved, and ones I knew too well. Vera, Mari, even a few cousins who had never once called me before. Some messages were blame dressed in guilt. Others were apologies hiding behind nostalgia. One said, "We didn't know you were unhappy." Another said, "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" And then there was one from my niece. "It was chaos. People finally saw what you've done for years. I'm sorry." I didn't reply. I saved it. That one, I kept. I sat on the lanai with a cup of coffee Halden had made. The ocean was right there, close enough to feel, but my mind drifted to a dining room far away, a long time ago. I remembered Thanksgiving, one of the early ones. I was seated at the end of the table, next to the kitchen door, half hidden behind the curtain that someone forgot to pull all the way back. At the time, I thought it was coincidence. Now I know better. That chair wasn't by accident. It was convenience. It was tradition, wrapped in polite excuses. I helped everyone eat, and not a single person asked what I wanted on my plate. I turned toward Halden, who was reading something on his phone. "Remember what that guy said at the party?" I asked. "The one who thought I was the maid?" Halden looked up. "Yeah, I do." I smiled. Not bitter, not sad, just done. Maybe he wasn't wrong. I just wasn't being paid. We both laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was finally over. "Now I know the difference," I said, "between helping and being used." Later that morning, I typed out a message. Not long, just enough. "I won't be returning. I'm not angry. I'm just finally resting." I sent it to the group thread Vera had started years ago, back when she still used words like blessed and together. I didn't send it for a reaction. I sent it for the record. I didn't blame them anymore. But I wasn't going to let them forget either. I've made new decisions. No more silent service. No more being the helper whose name never gets printed. I'll spend holidays with people who know how to pass the gravy and the gratitude. Healing doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like absence. Sometimes it looks like choosing to be somewhere they can't reach you. That evening, as the sun bled into the ocean, I sat with my feet in the sand, towel draped over my shoulder. Not to wipe dishes, just to dry my hair. I watched the waves roll in. Calm. honest. They can keep their guest lists, I thought. I've made peace with not being on them. Sometimes you don't need a seat at their table. You need to build your own.